Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Awfully good to be here. Very generous introduction from Bob. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Mayor Bob Conley, who have lost the stage right here, for his introduction and warm welcome to Madison. This is a great, iconic New Jersey community. I want to thank Drew University for hosting us. Dr. Marianne Baninger is in the house as its president and is doing an extraordinary job with her team. I want to thank each of you for coming together today. And as I look out here and saw some of you in the hallway coming in, I'm excited to see so many leaders who understand that it isn't what you can do by yourself that's important, although that is important, but what we can do together for our entire state. I want to give my thanks to the two guys in the front row in seats 1D and E, Mayors Jordan Glatt and Nick Platt, for their hard work over the past 6 months that has led us to today. I know that they have taken significant time to meet with many of you and your colleagues across the state to hear your ideas and concerns and to help move not just from thought to conversation, but from conversation to action. I also want to thank, I can't say enough about the work that these guys have done on a shoestring. I also want to give a shout out to the team from the Department of Community Affairs here today, led by Deputy Commissioner Rob Long and his team. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't also recognize Mark Pfeiffer. Mark knows more about shared services and local government in general than many of us could ever hope to. His encyclopedic knowledge is so needed in these discussions, and I'm honored to have him with us. Just about 2 weeks ago, I stood before you, many of you, at the annual conference of the League of Municipalities to share my thoughts after my first 10 months in office. I made it clear that we've changed the tone in the governor's office, especially when it comes to shared services and getting more of you to say yes to your neighbors. Instead of heavy-handed mandates and top-down, one-size-fits-all decisions made behind closed doors, I hope you find that we're listening to you. After all, you know your communities best. You know where sharing services can make sense and where it may not. You can't, or we can't, fit square pegs into round holes, but we hope that through symposia like this, we'll find more round pegs, if not innovative ways to machine down the edges of the square ones. I am not naive in thinking that shared services will be the cure and the be-all and end-all to our long-simmering property tax crisis. I'm not blind to the fact that on average municipal taxes amount to roughly 30% of the average tax bill, while school taxes take up more than half. And I don't think for a moment that each of you isn't doing your best to do things more efficiently. But every percentage point we can shave is real tax relief. And every agreement to share services between communities or within counties, Phil Elijah is here from Essex County as an example, anything we could do across communities, between communities and counties, that can help tick that number down. We know that we as a state need to be a partner in this effort from the outset. That begins by building up the capacity of DCA to work with you on furthering shared service ideas to bring them to completion. I want to close the books on the days of the state saying to communities, in essence, that's a great idea, good luck with it, and come back to us when it's done. We know that one of the stumbling blocks to shared services is the need for partnering towns to spend money up front on costly outside feasibility studies, the procurement of which also considerably slows the process. To help ameliorate this, I have authorized the Department of Community Affairs, with its leader, obviously, and our Lieutenant Governor, the one and only Sheila Oliver, to hire 2 new staff members in the local government services section to directly support the development of shared services agreements. One to specialize in risk management and procurement, and another to work specifically on matters regarding personnel. When added to the expertise of the current LGS staff, they will play a crucial role in helping more communities complete agreements without the need for high-cost feasibility studies. This morning, I also signed legislation to add both Atlantic and Monmouth counties to the Common Sense Shared Services pilot program, which allows for greater flexibility in personnel decision-making when it comes to the implementation of shared services. I am further asking LGS to recommend 3 areas which we believe can be transferred to the county or large city level. I think we all know areas that could be put under consideration. Services such as dispatch, procurement, permitting, and public health come immediately to mind. So I'm asking LGS and the department to take this deep dive along with you and to present these recommendations in time to be included in our budget address in February. I'll also ask the legislature to work with me to create a new pilot program for 2 county-wide school districts, and I further invite them to join me to advance legislation that requires meetings between all levels of government, county, local, and school board, in symposia such as this to facilitate conversation and formulate ideas all across the state, not just here. We know good ideas come when people sit down together, face to face. Through all of these efforts and through the efforts of Jordan and Nick, I believe we can reasonably and responsibly set a goal, all of us together that is, of facilitating at least 10 shared services agreements between now and May of next year. That gives us 6 months, and I'm optimistic that we can find them. As you all know, and as I mentioned at the speech I gave at the League, one of my models of service is John F. Kennedy. As we move forward from today's conversations, it would be wise for each of us, including me, to remember his words, and I quote then Senator Kennedy from a speech he gave at Loyola University in Baltimore in 1958. Let us not seek the Republican answer or the Democratic answer, but the right answer. Let us not seek to fix the blame for the past. Let us accept our own responsibility for the future. I think that's really well said. Our residents aren't looking for Democratic or Republican solutions. They're not looking for us to point to something in the past as the reason why we can't look at it anew. They just want us to work together on common sense answers. You know this as well as I do. One of the things that makes New Jersey so unique is that we are a patchwork quilt of communities. 565 municipalities, large and small, each contributing to our success. But that does not mean we have so much pride that we overlook working alongside our neighbors or throughout our counties when we know doing so can deliver the high-quality services that our residents deserve and demand with greater efficiency and perhaps greater effectiveness. That's why we're all here today, to break down barriers so we can not only do more with the tax dollars with which we are entrusted, but so we can be more responsible with them as well. And so I thank you for being part of this discussion, and I thank you for taking the time to be here today. Together, I know we can change our state for the better, and I look forward to working with each of you, with Nick and Jordan, and with the department to do just that. Unfortunately, I have to speak and run. I wanted to reiterate a frame through which I think of our state and guides a lot of what we're doing. And I'm going to leave aside for a minute the central and exceedingly important urban agenda, which in some respects is connected to what I'm about to say, and in some respects is its own unique agenda. And certainly that goes for Newark and Essex County. It goes for Patterson, where I'm headed right now, Camden, Trenton in its own unique ways that Rob Long knows better than anybody, Atlantic City. And so in many respects, as the big urban communities go, so goes the state. As I look at the broader state, as I look, Bob, at a Madison or a Summit or a Harding or a Parsippany, Troy Hills, Michael, or other communities represented here from both sides of the aisle, Mahwah, Bill, in your case, I think of our demographics in three buckets, and I'll start in the middle bucket. And I'm going to be approximate here, but approximately for the folks who are about 30 years old, up until I'm 61, up till plus or minus my vintage, when you're still working, when you still have to get to work, when you're likely starting a family and your family is growing up, New Jersey continues to be a state, if not the state of choice. And it's my job and our job collectively to make sure we keep it that way. We have the number 2 ranked public school system in America, number 1 in physics instruction, number 2 in chemistry. More kids take foreign language in New Jersey than any other state in America, and it's not even close. Save the Children ranks us as the best state in America to raise a kid. We were just ranked as having the safest hospitals in America. We used to have the premier bus and rail transit system in America, and as sure as I'm standing here, we will again. I promise you, if it kills me, and it might. I literally spend my every waking minute on NJ Transit. But listen, we're the 4th smallest state in the nation. We're the densest state in the nation. We sit beside the largest market in the world in New York and one of the fastest growing in the country, in Philadelphia. It's not Democratic or Republican. Making the trains run on time, making the buses run on time is integral to whatever aspiration you have as a state, as an economic development matter. So when you're between those two sort of 30-ish to 60, 65-ish, you've got kids you want to get educated and you've got to get to work. New Jersey continues to be a state of choice. Never, if you're a one-issue voter, if your tax rate is the only thing you care about, and you don't care about a lot of the educational standards I just mentioned, or the fact that we'll get NJ Transit fixed in our location, which is extraordinary, we're probably not your state. The fact that you're here, you've already voted with your feet. I think our job for that cohort in particular is to be, again, what we were in our best days. Governor Kane, who's one of my mentors who ran this university so ably in his time, a good value for money state. You pay a premium, but you get a lot back. I'm not from here. My wife's not from here. We chose to come to New Jersey to raise our kids here for that with our eyes wide open, that you pay a premium, but you get great schools. You could move around, high quality of life, etc. We also want to not just be the good value for money state, we want to be the great values state. So that if you care about women's health or the environment or sensible gun safety laws that still respect the Second Amendment or sensible immigration or you pick LGBTQ matters, whatever it might be that you could say, you know what, this is a good value for money state and it stands for the right values. That's an aspiration that we not only have, but in many respects achieve. And our job, I think my job, is to make sure that value equation gets back into line, and shared services are a big weapon to help us get there. Where I think we are not the state of choice, and I spend most of my waking hours on this, if not on NJ Transit, or holding our position of leadership in that 30 to 60 plus cohort, is from the 18-year-old up to the 30-year-old. How many, we continue to lead the nation per capita in exporting high school seniors, and if that weren't enough, we lead the nation per capita in exporting college seniors. What helps keep them here? Affordable, accessible universities, community college or four-year. Jobs, particularly in the startup economy. Communities where they want to live and walk to and fro work in a sort of new age, millennial way of thinking. So we put an enormous amount of deepening the ties between institutions of higher education, such as Drew, into the real economy. Those are elements of the cookbook that you've seen with success in Boston or Northern California. And there's no reason we can't replicate that here. We have 15 incubators. New York has 179. There's no good reason for that other than public policy that has either embraced it in New York's case or ignored it in our case. Those days are over. So getting that 18-year-old or 22-year-old, either out of high school or out of college or both, to stay here until they get to the point where they want to raise a family and still work and get to work on time and have great public education for their kids. I view a lot of our policy initiatives at keeping that cohort in the state. And likewise, the 61-year-old. I've still got a sophomore in high school and a senior in high school, but in a couple of years from now, I'll be like many of us in the state. You'll look at your property tax bill and you and your spouse will ask the question, remind me, why are we paying this when 53% of the bill is public education? And we have no kids in the public education system anymore. So we have too many seniors, too many folks in that age group who are leaving not because they want to, but because they don't have a choice, or selling their home not because they want to, but because they don't have a choice. And there's a whole other set of policies directed at keeping those folks happy in this state, feeling like, you know what, it's still a fair deal even though my kids have graduated from high school and I no longer work full-time. So whether that's homestead rebate or senior freeze, or again, shared services imperatives that allow us to manage that cohort. So I wanted to say that because those are really three, in some respects, there are policies that apply to all of those demographics, but in many respects, those are three very distinct demographics in our state. In that fat middle, we have done well. We continue to do well. Our job there is to maintain our rankings, fix NJ Transit, and make the property tax burden less so. That's our main objective in that middle lump. In the young side, we got to make college more affordable. We need to ignite the startup community, particularly in technology. We need to make the increasing amount of communities where Madison's a great example, where folks say, you know what, I actually could live here even in my 20s. This is a place where I can walk around. I feel like I can start a business here. We need more of those examples around the state, and deepening higher ed into the real economy is a big piece of that. And then at that final end, the demographic in which I'm on the front end of, saying, you know what, it's still a fair deal. Your kids may not be in school, but we've got cushions, we've got programs, we're vigilant on your property taxes, we're vigilant on shared services. It's still an okay deal to stay in New Jersey, including elements that are sensible, affordable housing at all levels. And again, all of this is alongside very robust, beginning with Newark, but not limited to those 5 communities I mentioned, but those, as they go in so many respects, go this great state of New Jersey. I want to thank again Jordan and Nick, and to each one of you for taking this as seriously as you do, for your leadership on both sides of the aisle. I frankly have no interest in Democratic or Republican ideas, as I mentioned in my remarks. We're all in this together. It's about good government. It's about doing right by our citizens, making sure they feel like that their tax dollars they pay, they get something back for that they think is a fair deal. That's the space on our best days that we've been, and that's the space that I'm committed to getting to again. Thank you all very much.